Hey there, fellow wargamers, it's your man, it's a Sentinel from across the tabletop. And in today's little video, I want to talk about the ITC and the ITC ranking. So let's just get off the bat. What is the ITC? Well, the ITC is the International Tournament Circuit. It's hosted by the Frontline Gaming organization over in America. It's a ranking system, and they did this, I'd say about, when did they start this up? About 10, 15 years ago. So Frontline Gaming guys started this 10, 15 years ago, but this is older than that. There have been ranking systems within the Warhammer Fantasy, the 40k universe. Every wargaming community out there, there's been a ranking system in some form or another. Try to get the international, European, UK, Australian, the global sort of initiative on board to this standardized ranking system. So as human beings, with our psyche, that we really want to be that top of the world player. It doesn't matter what game system or what athlete is out there. We want to be at number one if we've got any desire or inclination within that hobby space, athletic space. And the Frontline Gaming saw that, took the opportunity, made this fantastic ranking system back in the day, where they created a standardized gaming system that allowed us to use the 40k rules and take them into a competitive scene where the tables were dimensionally matched. Because if I don't know if you remember, guys, it was a 6x4 game, but that's what the recommendation was from GW. GW didn't really put a finger down on saying this is the rules, this is how you play it, there's no exceptions. You know, they gave us a rough basis of turn 1, turn 2 mechanics of the game. They gave us the mechanics of the game, and the Frontline Gamers took the mechanics and they went, well, we've got this great game, just like the mechanics of, say, backdrafts, drafts, or chess. How do we make it competitive? Well, chess decided it was a time clock, and that each move had to be done in a certain time frame, that had to be overseen by a referee, and things like that. And the game had to be conducted in a certain time frame. You couldn't, cheat by moving pieces around or knocking stuff over. They made a certain aspect of the game of chess into a competitive game where people were ranked, pointed, and a set of rules that was added to the game system already, or the game mechanics, to make it as fair as possible on each player to have the best results come out. So the ITC rankings did a very similar thing. They took the mechanics of the fantastic game that we love, Warhammer 40k, and they've done it with others as well, Kill Team and AOS, and they've put on top of that, this is back in the day, so they put on top of that some restrictions on into how to play the game. I mean, if you go back, there were some ITC games that you wouldn't allow to take Forge World models because they were just overpowered. There was some that the rule of 3 came from the ITC, and then they brought out the secondaries that you had to take. So there was kill secondaries, there was control secondaries. They're similar to what we understand now from the tournament circuit booklets that they brought out from the GW, but the ITC rankings for Frontline Gaming already initially started this 10 years ago and more, and they made an amazing impact on the world in the standardized gaming. It was more accepted over in America. It took some time for it to be accepted over here with the European sort of system that we had with the WTC, the World Tournament Circuit, Championship sort of circuit that we were going on here, the ETU or the ETI. But it was a European sort of standardized game that we were trying to get off the mark here, and it's turned into the World Team Championships. So there are two competing point system at the moment, a ranking system, but I believe since 8th edition dropped with the new standardized secondaries, table layouts, secondary objectives and things like that, which are all located in the same place. Previously it was player per place. So this is all now very much in the last sort of like 8 years now. Is it worth eight? Is it 9's been out for 3, 8 was out for 4, so it's about 8 years now. 8 years we've had this very structured ITC standard template to be playing Warhammer 40k at, and it's been absolutely amazing with the pouring from additional players into the community, we've seen the ITC ranking go from like 1,000 to 100,000 players now. And I'm not too sure the exact number, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's not 1 million players on the ITC ranking playing Warhammer across the globe that are participating in events yearly and adding scores onto the ITC rankings. Now, you think that's a lot of players, but it's not really in the grand scheme of 7 billion, or 8 billion now. So what we have to look at is, I think now with all that participation we're having with the annual large events, especially with the LVO, the Nova Open, the London Grand Tournament, the European one, I mean there was a Spanish one that was larger. These events are getting 4 to 5 to 7 to even 1,000 players in some places. And what I'm seeing now is the frustration of those that are attending the smaller events, a Rogue Trader event, so an RTT, a one-day event, and maybe he's spending his money to go and attend that one financially, and maybe he's attending 4 or 5 a year. And I think the ITC at the moment is believed at a maximum, depending on what faction you're playing, is 4. So if you play Space Marines, say for myself, I play Imperial Fist, I can only, no matter how many tournaments I attend, I'll only ever be able to submit 4 of my Imperial Fist best tournament events, and then I have to play a different faction, and I can score maximum 6 of my best events and add that to my rankings for the year, which is very, very cool that they've done that. But say I attend 6 of my events, say I attend 4 of my events, and I take Imperial Fist for all of them, and I max out my faction for Imperial Fist, and I'm at 160 odd points, or say, just for instance, it's around about the 600 point, I think 800 point mark for about 4 events. But someone could turn around and come to a large event, or 1,000 point, 500 point, 500 player event, and score more points than 2 or 3 RTTs that I've attended, just because it's a larger event. He could come in 180th place out of 500, so he's above the mid, but he would score more points on that finishing place of 500 players than I would if I went to 3 RTTs. Get same amount of games, roughly 9 games. If you think about the bigger, larger events, I think Nova Open was 7, and the late Las Vegas will be, I think it's going to be, I want to say 7 as well, might even be 9. The London Grand Tournament is 5 plus 2 for the ones that get to the top 8. So they do have a potential to play the same amount of games, but it's the amount of points scored. So there needs to be, I believe the community is asking or looking for an evolution of the points and ranking system for those now with a larger commitment. Now we would just simply say, now we've got large people playing, we'll go to leagues. So like the Premiership for the football, or the rugby leagues, or the tennis leagues, and so on and so forth. The bigger sporting events have leagues, and if you want to play in the top leagues, you start at the bottom and you build yourself up. Unfortunately, we don't have in the Warhammer community that sort of funding yet to start those leagues and have those financial sort of deficits on those leagues themselves, to make the money to produce the events that we want to see happen, I suppose, is the best thing. And we're all looking at these ITCs as ITC tournaments as in the British sense of it. In the English sense, we've got the Coca-Cola Cup, which is probably not called the Coca-Cola Cup anymore because that old and that horrible. We have a cup in the UK for the footballers. That doesn't matter what club you're in or where you're from. You can participate in this event, and you could play any club in the UK, any club in England, and you could be number 1. And I think that's amazing. To allow any club in any division, any league, to come and join in this competition, and it's going to happen over a certain amount of months, and whoever gets to the top wins. And it's phenomenal. But that's how I see every single tournament I go to. It's come along, doesn't matter what league you're in, it doesn't matter where you are in the rankings, come along and you have a chance to become number 1. and that's every single tournament. There isn't that divide between the pro player, the common player, the hard trier, the first time player, the a fun game player, because this tournament in his local area, he's never played in a tournament. It's a fun time because he only ever gets one game a night a week, so it'd be fun to do 6 games in a weekend. There's never that consistency within the tournament scene for the rankings to be able to be used in a way I think that a majority of us want to see, because the hard triers or the fun tournament guys are never going to win anything, in the sense of, unless they're using the greatest codex that came out that weekend, because of the way that GW releases the codexes, they get better and better, and we all know that, so it's fine. But those that just turn up to play and have a bit of fun generally are never going to win anything, and never going to see themselves on the ranking system as ever being anywhere that is visibly noticed to their friends or community and things like that, which is fine, but it never gives them the drive to come and do it again, because there's so many out there that have a bad experience about it. And I think we are, as a community, doing much better at that, to stop having those that come to have fun the bad experience. We are much better in now than we did 10 years ago at giving those players that do come and have fun a great experience, and they do come back to the local tournament scene over and over again. But what they don't generally do is spread out to the larger events across the country. We need to look at the cost of it as well. In the UK, average RTT can cost you £60 to £70 for the day, depending on where you're travelling from and food and that lot. So if you think about that as once a month, that's like nearly £1,000 just to take part in an RTT every month, and that's across the country if you wanted to travel. And then that doubles to triple, so it doesn't just double to a general, so it's not 140 when you pay in a 2-day event, it triples to £200 to £300, which then triples over the year to go to £2,000 to £3,000 depending on where you're going in the country. And this is just on average costs when it comes to staying over the night in accommodation, food for 2 days, and then transport as well on top of that, and then the event ticket itself. So it does vary, especially in location. If you go to London or Peterborough, or maybe Portsmouth or Bournemouth, or maybe even Leeds, and you're going up towards Preston or Hull, or even up to YI Man up there in Newcastle. So the different areas of the country will have a different cost and a different time and everything, and we really want to have that. I think we need to evolve to have the ability to be able to accommodate those that want to travel, and at the moment I don't think we have that ability, but we need to look at that at least as a community and talk about it. But yeah, that's where I'm thinking the evolve needs to happen, is the idea of the communication of possibly looking at a ranking system that allows the pro players to play the pro players, the competitive general players, the tryhards, which is probably where I fall in, to be honest. If I looked in the mirror, I'd probably say I'm in the tryhard sort of area. The general gamers that come for the fun, and then at least those that are then competing in those sort of leagues or areas are having the experience that they desire to pay for, meeting up with the best of the best in their own rankings, and then the ability to play each other at a level where it's not and not kicking the teeth. And I think we're doing a great job in that with the larger events. I mean, Nova have and the GTs, the larger GTs in America especially, are starting to implement the bracket systems, and the way that happens is everybody plays everybody day one, and at 3 games, and then we work out where everybody's rankings are in those 3 days, and then we take them into their own pods in the following couple of days after that, and then you fight within your own pod for your own victory within your pods. And I think that's a fantastic idea, but you've then got to consider having more time to do it. And again, it's that whole concept of everybody turns up to play in the one cup, and that goes out the window. You've then created your own little leagues within your own tournament settings, which is what we all want in the larger aspect of it, but we're not quite there yet. because that's all the pods are doing, is creating the league that we're talking about when it comes to like the football leagues, the rugby leagues, the American football leagues. It's just creating a little league within the tournament setting with the pods. I think we want that on a grander, larger scale. I think that's what the community is probably looking at, and the only way to do that is to possibly look at changing the way we set ourselves up within our ITC community setups. And then the next thing I want to talk about is how many points. We're going to talk about how we marry each other. If that isn't the way that we're going to go, is potentially looking at a point system change that allows those that are competing in the events to have a different aspect of points given to those for the victories that they're playing. So thanks for sticking around for so long. I'll put another video together about the changes in the points that are awarded to those that are taking part in it, and the way that reflects on who the up and down scale, again referring back to the chess sort of algorithm they use, but that'll be in a future sort of discussion. So cheers for sticking around, and we'll catch you later.